The distress call cut through the emptiness of space like a knife. It was weak but steady, pulsing with a rhythm that spoke of desperation. Aboard the alien ship Eternal Harmony, Science Officer Harin looked up from her station with wide eyes. "Captain, I'm picking up a signal," she said, her fingers moving quickly across the glowing control panel. "It's coming from the restricted zone in the Orion Arm." Captain Jinha walked over to her station, his face serious. The Orion Arm was home to only one known intelligent species, humans. And humans were trouble. "How is that possible?" he asked. "That system is under quarantine. No ship should be there." Harin shook her head. "The signal is using our emergency codes we've never shared with humans." The bridge fell silent. Every crew member knew what humans were, Deathworlders. Beings who evolved on a planet so harsh and deadly that it should have killed them. Instead, it had made them strong, unpredictable, and dangerous. "Play the message," Jinha ordered. Harin pressed a button, and a voice filled the bridge. It spoke perfect galactic standard, the common language of the stars. "This is Research Vessel Horizon from Earth. We are stranded in the Proxima Centauri system. Our life support is failing. We have wounded crew. If anyone can hear this, please help us." Navigation Officer Quan looked up from his station. "Captain, that's 3 light years from Earth. Their ships shouldn't be able to travel that far. And they shouldn't know our language or our distress codes," added Security Chief Rex. His hand rested on his weapon. "This could be a trap." Jinha walked to the main viewport and stared at the stars. The rules were clear: no contact with humans. Their planet was classified as a Class 12 death world, the most dangerous type known. Earth had gravity that would crush most species, extreme temperature ranges, deadly radiation from its sun, poisonous oxygen levels, and countless predators. The fact that humans not only survived there, but built a civilization was terrifying to the galactic community. "The law says we must respond to any distress call," Jinha said finally, "even from humans." "Captain, with all respect," Rex argued, "humans are dangerous. They can break bones with their bare hands. They can survive injuries that would kill. Any of us, they can run for hours without stopping. And now they're in space, using our codes," Jinha replied. "I want to know how and why." He turned to Quan. "Set a course for the signal's origin. Standard approach, safe distance." "Yes, Captain," Quan said, though he looked nervous. Harin studied the signal more closely. "Captain, there's something else in this message data embedded in the carrier wave. It's the schematics of their ship. They're showing us their damaged systems?" Jinha looked at the technical readouts now displayed on the main screen. The human ship was crude by their standards, but showed surprising ingenuity. Some of the technology shouldn't have been possible for humans to develop yet. "They're asking for our help while showing us exactly how to help them," Jinha said. "That's either very trusting or very clever." "Or both," Harin suggested, as the Eternal Harmony changed course. Jinha couldn't shake the feeling that they were heading toward something important, something that might change everything they thought they knew about the universe and the creatures who had evolved on a planet that tried to kill them every day. The ship accelerated to faster than light speed, leaving a trail of distorted space behind it. In the quiet of the bridge, Rex checked his weapon again. "What do we do if they attack?" he asked. "They won't," Jinha said, though he wasn't entirely sure. "They're asking for help." "Deathworlders don't ask for help," Rex muttered. "They take what they need." Harin looked up from her station. "Maybe we don't know them as well as we think we do." The journey to Proxima Centauri would take 6 hours at their current speed. Jinha ordered the crew to prepare for first contact protocols. Medical teams stood ready. Security teams checked their non-lethal weapons. Scientists gathered all available information on human biology and behavior 2 hours into their journey. Harin called Jinha to her station again. "Captain, I've been analyzing their ship design," she said, pointing to the schematics. "Look at this engine configuration. It's not like anything in our database." Jinha studied the design. "They've created a hybrid propulsion system. Part chemical rocket, part solar sail, part something I don't recognize. Exactly, Harin said, excitement in her voice. They've invented something new, something we've never seen before. Is it dangerous? Jinha asked. All new technology can be dangerous, Harin replied. But this is elegant, efficient. They're using minimal resources to achieve maximum results. Jinha considered this. The galactic community had always viewed humans as primitive brutes, strong but simple. This engine design suggested otherwise. As they neared Proxima Centauri, the ship's sensors detected something else, energy readings, consistent with weapons fire. Captain, Quan called out, there's another ship near the human vessel. It's not broadcasting any identification. Jinha moved to the main viewport. Show me. The screen shifted to show a distant star system. Orbiting the red dwarf star was a small human ship, clearly damaged. Nearby lurked a larger vessel with a distinctive predatory shape. That's a Vexenar raider, Rex said, his voice tight. Pirates and slavers. They're known for capturing ships and harvesting their crews. The humans are being hunted, Jinha realized. That's why they sent the distress call. The Vivexenar are twice as strong as humans and have natural armor, Rex said. Even Deathworlders wouldn't stand a chance against them. Harin looked up from her readings. The human ship has been fighting back. There's residual energy from weapons discharge on both vessels. Jinha made his decision. Battle stations. We're going in at full speed. The Eternal Harmony surged forward, its engines pushing to maximum power. As they closed the distance, they could see the human ship more clearly. It was small, battered, and showed signs of makeshift repairs. Yet it was still fighting, still surviving against an enemy that should have destroyed it easily. Open a channel to the human vessel, Jinha ordered. The view screen flickered, and a face appeared, a human male with determined eyes and a bloodied forehead. This is Jack Morrison of Earth Research Vessel Horizon, he said, his voice steady despite the chaos visible behind him. Thank you for responding to our call. This is Captain Jinha of the Confederation vessel Eternal Harmony. Jinha replied, We're here to help. What is your situation? Morrison's face showed relief but also caution. We've been under attack for 3 days. The enemy ship disabled our main engines, but we've managed to keep them from boarding again. Again? Harin asked. Morrison's expression hardened. They boarded us once. They didn't like what they found? In that moment, Jinha began to understand why humans were classified as Deathworlders. It wasn't just their physical strength or their ability to survive harsh conditions. It was the fire in their eyes, the absolute refusal to surrender, even when facing impossible odds. Hold position, Jinha told Morrison. We're coming to you. The Eternal Harmony approached the human vessel carefully. Through the main viewport, Jinha and his crew could see the full extent of the damage. The human ship's hull was scarred with burn marks. Parts of it were exposed to space, sealed only by emergency force fields that flickered weakly. Their power systems are failing, Harin reported. Life support is down to 20% capacity. I'm detecting 3 human life signs. Only 3? Jinha asked. Yes, all showing signs of injury but stable. Rex stood at the weapons station, keeping the Vexenar ship in his sights. The pirate vessel had pulled back when the Eternal Harmony arrived, but it hadn't left the system. They're watching us, Rex said, waiting to see what we do. Jinha made his decision. Prepare a boarding team. Medical personnel, engineers, and security. We're going to help them. Captain, Rex protested, direct contact with humans is against protocol. They need our help, Jinha replied firmly. And I want to know how they've survived this long against the Vexenar raider. The boarding team assembled in the shuttle bay. Harin insisted on joining them, her scientific curiosity overcoming her caution. Jinha decided to lead the mission. Himself, as their shuttle approached the human vessel, Harin studied the ship's design more closely. It's remarkable, she said. They've reinforced the hull with materials that shouldn't work together, but somehow do. And look at those makeshift weapons mounts. They've converted research equipment into defense systems. The shuttle docked with the human ship. The airlock cycled, and Jinha led his team inside. The air was thin and smelled of smoke and something. Metallic blood, Harin realized. Emergency lights cast red shadows across the corridor. Hello? Jinha called out. This is Captain Jinha of the Eternal Harmony. We're here to help. A door at the end of the corridor slid open. A human figure stood there, tall, straight-backed despite obvious injuries. It was Jack Morrison, the man from the view screen. Up close, he was even more imposing. His skin was marked with fresh cuts and old scars. His eyes were alert, taking in every detail of the alien boarding party. Thank you for coming, Morrison said, his voice steady. We didn't know if anyone would answer our call. Jinha stepped forward. We respond to all distress signals. This is my science officer, Harin, and my security chief, Rex. Morrison nodded to each of them. My crew is this way. We've moved everyone to the central chamber where we could maintain pressure and temperature. He led them through the ship. Harin noticed that despite the damage, the vessel was remarkably clean and organized. Every system, even the damaged ones, showed signs of careful maintenance and ingenious repairs. In the central chamber, 2 more humans were working on equipment. A female with short dark hair was bandaging her own arm while monitoring life support. Systems, a male with broad shoulders was welding a panel back into place, sparks flying around him. This is Dr. Mina Park, our science officer, Morrison said, indicating the woman. And our engineer, Rex Chung? A human named Rex looked up from his work, his face streaked with grease and sweat. Your timing is good, he said. Another day and we'd have been breathing vacuum. The Confederation medical team moved to examine the humans, but Dr. Park waved them away. Help Rex first, she said. He took the worst of it when they boarded. Harin watched as the human engineer reluctantly allowed himself to be examined. The medical scanner showed multiple fractures, severe burns, and internal bleeding. How are you still functioning? The medical officer asked in amazement. Rex Chun shrugged, then winced at the movement. Someone had to keep the ship together. Harin turned to Morrison. Your message said you were from Earth. How did you get this far into space? Our records indicate your species hasn't developed efficient, faster-than-light travel. Morrison exchanged a look with Dr. Park. We've had to advance quickly, he said. Necessity is a powerful motivator. What necessity? Jinha asked. Morrison's face darkened. 6 months ago, the Vexenar attacked our colony on Mars. That's the 4th planet in our home system. They killed hundreds before we drove them off. We learned they were planning to return with a larger force to harvest our entire population. So you pursued them? Rex asked, incredulous. With this ship? We modified it as we went, Dr. Park explained. Each encounter taught us something new about their technology, their tactics. We've been tracking them, warning others about the threat. Others? Harin asked. You've made contact with other species? 3 so far, Morrison said. None as advanced as yours. We helped them evacuate before the Vexenar arrived. Jinha was stunned. The humans hadn't just been running or hiding, they had been fighting back, protecting others weaker than themselves. How did you learn our language and communication protocols? He asked. Dr. Park stepped forward. We intercepted transmissions between Confederation vessels. I developed an algorithm to decode the language patterns. The emergency protocols were embedded in the data streams. You decoded our secure transmissions? Rex asked, his hand moving toward his weapon. We needed to understand, Morrison said calmly. We were alone in space, facing an enemy we knew nothing about. Information was our only advantage. Harin was fascinated. You reversed engineered our entire communication system just by listening to it? It's what humans do, Dr. Park said simply. We observe, we learn, we adapt. The human engineer called out from across the room. Captain, the Vexenar ship is moving. Everyone turned to the main view screen. The pirate vessel was powering up. Its engines? They're leaving the system, Rex said, checking his scanner. No, Morrison replied grimly. They're calling for reinforcements. This is their standard tactic: retreat, regroup, return with overwhelming force. Jinha made a quick decision. We need to get you and your crew to our ship. We can tow your vessel to safety. We can't abandon the horizon, Morrison insisted. It contains all our data on the Vexenar, their movements, their weaknesses, their plans for other worlds. Then we'll transfer the data, Harin suggested. Dr. Park shook her head. It's too much. And some of it is encoded in the ship's systems themselves, the modifications we've made, the adaptations. Jinha considered their options. Confederation. Protocol demanded they help the humans, but also required minimal contact. Taking them aboard the Eternal Harmony would violate those restrictions. How long would it take to repair your ship enough for independent travel? He asked. The human engineer looked around at the damaged systems. With your technology and materials? Maybe 12 hours. You have 6, Jinha said. The Vexenar will return before then, Morrison nodded. We'll be ready. As the Confederation engineers began working with the humans, Harin pulled Jinha aside. Captain, these aren't the mindless brutes our records described. They're intelligent, resourceful, and remarkably adaptable. Yes, Jinha agreed. And that makes them even more dangerous than we thought. Harin watched as Dr. Park worked seamlessly with the alien engineers, quickly grasping technologies she had never seen before. Or more valuable, she suggested. Quietly, Jinha didn't respond. But his expression was thoughtful as he observed the humans working tirelessly despite their injuries. There was something about them, a fire, a determination that both impressed and unsettled him. These Deathworlders were unlike any species he had encountered before, and he was beginning to understand why the galaxy had feared them for so long. The repair work proceeded quickly. The humans moved with purpose, their bodies pushing through pain and exhaustion as if these were minor inconveniences. Harin watched in fascination as engineer Rex Chun worked alongside the Confederation technicians, his broken fingers still nimble as he rewired complex systems. You should rest, Harin told him after 3 hours of non-stop work. Our medical scans show you have 4 fractured ribs and internal bleeding. Chin barely looked up from the power coupling he was fixing. I've had worse, he said simply. The ship needs me. Harin had studied the biological profiles of many species, but humans continued to surprise her. Their bodies were remarkably resilient, designed to keep functioning even when severely damaged. How is this possible? She asked Dr. Park, who was calibrating a newly installed life support system. Your species evolved on a single planet. How did you develop such physical endurance? Dr. Park smiled tiredly. Earth isn't just one environment, it's dozens. We have frozen wastelands where temperatures drop below -50 degrees. We have deserts where it rises above 50. We have mountains with thin air, oceans with crushing pressure, forests filled with predators and poisons. And humans live in all these places? Harin asked, amazed. We always have. When food grew scarce in one region, we moved to another. When predators threatened us, we learned to fight or hide. When diseases struck, those with stronger immune systems survived and passed on their genes. Dr. Park's eyes grew distant. Earth shaped us through millions of years of trial and error. The weak died, the strong adapted. In another section of the ship, Captain Jinha was speaking with Morrison about the Vexenar attack. Our records show the Vexenar are physically superior to humans, Jinha said. They have natural armor, enhanced strength, and toxic claws. How did you repel their boarding party? Morrison led Jinha to a sealed compartment. Inside were the remains of 3 Vexenar warriors, their chitinous bodies broken and burned. They thought we would be easy prey, Morrison explained. They didn't expect us to fight back. Jinha studied the dead aliens. One had been killed by what appeared to be a makeshift spear, a metal pipe sharpened to a point. Another showed signs of electrical burns. The third had multiple puncture wounds. You killed them with primitive weapons? Jinha asked, unable to hide his shock. We used what we had, Morrison said. When they disabled our weapon systems, we improvised, Dr. Park rigged the environmental controls to flood their section with superheated steam. Chen converted a maintenance robot into a mobile shock device, and he gestured to the spear. I went with the classics. Jinha tried to imagine it humans fighting hand-to-hand against armored aliens twice their strength. It seemed impossible, yet the evidence lay before him. You must understand, Morrison continued, humans have been fighting since we first stood upright. It's in our history, our literature, our DNA. We've spent thousands of years perfecting the art of warfare against nature, against animals, against each other. Your species fights itself? Jinha asked, disturbed by the concept. We've had countless wars, Morrison admitted. Tribe against tribe, nation against nation. It's our greatest shame, but also the forge that shaped us. Every conflict taught us something new about strategy, about technology, about our own limits. Jinha looked at the human captain with new understanding. Deathworlders weren't just physically dangerous, they were forged in the fire of constant conflict. Back in the engine room, Rex Chun was explaining the ship's propulsion system to the Confederation engineers. We started with a standard fusion drive, he said, pointing to the central core. But it wasn't efficient enough for deep space. So we studied the radiation patterns from different stars and developed this. He indicated a complex array of crystalline structures surrounding the core. This captures and redirects stellar energy, a Confederation engineer said, examining the device. But the configuration is unlike anything in our database. We call it a solar amplifier, Chun explained. It lets us harvest energy from any star we pass. The hotter and more unstable the star, the more power we generate. That's incredibly dangerous, the engineer protested. The radiation alone should kill your crew, Chun shrugged. We added extra shielding. And humans can tolerate higher radiation levels than most species. Because of your planet? The engineer asked, partly. Earth's magnetic field protects us from most solar radiation, but not all. The humans who could withstand more radiation survive to reproduce. Natural selection at work? Chun tapped the engine core. Besides, danger is relative. On Earth, we live with the constant threat of natural disasters, earthquakes, hurricanes, volcanic eruptions. A little radiation seems minor in comparison. As the 6th hour approached, the repairs were nearly complete. The human vessel's life support was fully functional, and the engines were operating at 70% capacity, enough for faster than light travel. The crew gathered in the command center to discuss their next. Our sensors detect 3 Vexenar vessels approaching, Rex reported. Estimated arrival time, 20 minutes. Jinha turned to Morrison. Your ship can travel now. We should leave this system immediately. And go where? Morrison asked. The Vexenar will follow us. They're determined to capture humans for study or worse. We can escort you to a Confederation outpost, Jinha offered. You'll be protected there. Morrison exchanged looks with his crew before responding. Thank you, but we can't accept. The Vexenar aren't just hunting us, they're targeting any world with developing civilizations. We've tracked them to 7 systems already. You're not suggesting we fight 3 Vexenar warships? Rex asked incredulously. No, Dr. Park interjected. We're suggesting we set a trap. She activated the main display, showing a detailed map of the star system. Proxima Centauri is a red dwarf with frequent solar flares. We've been studying its patterns. A major flare is due in approximately 18 minutes. Just before the Vexenar arrive, Harin realized. Exactly, Chun said. If we position ourselves here, he pointed to a spot near the star, and modify your shields to channel the flare's energy rather than block it. We could create a directed energy wave, Harin finished, understanding the plan. It would disable their ships without destroying them. Jinha considered the proposal. It was risky, unconventional, and violated several Confederation protocols. It was also brilliant. This plan depends on precise timing and positioning, he said. If we're off by even a few seconds, we'll be fried by the solar flare, Morrison acknowledged. But it's our best chance to stop the Vexenar before they hurt anyone else. Jinha studied the humans standing before him. Despite their injuries and exhaustion, their eyes burned with determination. These Deathworlders had traveled far from their home, not to conquer or destroy, but to protect others. Very well, Jinha decided. We'll do it your way. As the crews returned to their ships and prepared for the dangerous maneuver, Harin approached Jinha privately. Captain, I've been analyzing the humans' behavior, she said quietly. Their physical capabilities are impressive, yes, but it's their mental adaptability that truly sets them apart. They don't just endure hardship, they learn from it, improve. Upon it, overcome it, Jinha nodded slowly. The Confederation has always feared humans because of their strength and resilience. Perhaps we should have been more concerned about their minds. Or perhaps, Harin suggested, we should have recognized them as allies rather than threats. As the Eternal Harmony moved into position alongside the human vessel, Jinha watched the determination on Morrison's face through the communication screen. For the first time, he understood why humans had survived their deadly homeworld. It wasn't just because they were strong, it was because they refused to accept defeat. The two ships moved carefully toward Proxima Centauri, positioning themselves in the shadow of the red dwarf star. From the bridge of the Eternal Harmony, Jinha could see the angry red surface of the star, with massive flares already beginning to form. The solar activity is increasing, Harin reported, studying her instruments. The major flare will erupt in approximately 12 minutes. And the Vexenar? Jinha asked. Their ships will arrive in 15 minutes, Rex replied from the tactical station. If the humans' calculations are correct, we'll have a 3-minute window to channel the flare's energy toward their entry point. Jinha opened the communication channel to the human vessel. Morrison's face appeared on the screen, his expression focused and calm despite the dangerous maneuver they were about to attempt. Are your shield modifications complete? Jinha asked Morrison. Nodded. Dr. Park and your engineers have reconfigured our deflectors to work with yours. We'll create a focusing lens between our ships when the flare hits. This plan carries significant risk, Jinha felt compelled to point out. If the flare is stronger than predicted, it will destroy both our ships, Morrison finished. We know. But the alternative is letting the Vexenar continue their harvesting operations across this sector. Jinha was struck again by the humans' willingness to risk their lives for others. It contradicted everything he had been taught about Deathworlders, who supposedly valued only their own survival. Why do you care what happens to other species? He asked. They're not your people. Morrison seemed surprised by the question. Does it matter if they're human or not? They're alive? They think they feel they have the right to exist without being hunted, even at the cost of your own lives? Especially then, Morrison said firmly. On Earth, we have a concept called sacrifice, the willingness to give up something valuable, even your life, for something more important. What could be more important than survival? Rex asked, genuinely confused. Principles, Morrison replied. Justice, freedom, the knowledge that you did the right thing even when it was hard. The conversation was interrupted by an alert from Harin's station. Captain, I'm detecting unusual energy readings from the star. The flare is building faster than predicted. On the screen, they could see Dr. Park working frantically at her console. The magnetic field is destabilizing, she reported. The flare will erupt in 8 minutes, not 12. And the Vexenar? Jinha asked urgently. Still 15 minutes out, Rex confirmed. We'll miss them completely. The plan was falling apart. If the solar flare hit before the Vexenar arrived, they would lose their one chance to stop the pirate fleet. We need to delay the flare, Morrison said, his mind working quickly. That's impossible, Harin protested. It's a stellar event. We can't control it. No, but we can disrupt it, Engineer Chun suggested, joining Morrison on the screen. If we fire a concentrated energy pulse into the forming flare, we might be able to temporarily destabilize it. That would require precise targeting and timing, Harin said, her fingers flying over her console as she ran calculations, and an enormous amount of power. We can divert all non-essential systems, Jinha decided. Life support, artificial gravity, everything except shields. It still won't be enough, Chun said. But if we combine it with the power from our fusion core. Morrison looked at his engineer sharply. You're talking about removing the core from our engine. The horizon would be dead in space, yes, Chun acknowledged. But we could trigger a controlled overload, channel it through your ship's deflectors, and hit the exact spot where the flare is forming. Jinha understood what the humans were suggesting. You would sacrifice your ship to delay the flare. Just long enough for the Vexenar to arrive, Morrison confirmed. Once they're disabled, by the redirected flare, you can pick us up. If the core overload doesn't kill you first, Rex pointed out, we'll evacuate most of our crew to your ship, Morrison said. I'll stay behind with Chun to manage the overload sequence. That's suicide, Jinha protested, Morrison's expression. Didn't change, it's necessary. Before Jinha could argue further, Dr. Park interrupted. Captain Morrison, I should stay instead. I can calculate the exact timing needed for the energy pulse. No, Morrison said firmly. You're needed to coordinate the shield modifications from the Eternal Harmony. This is my decision. Jinha watched the exchange with growing amazement. The humans weren't arguing about whether to make the sacrifice, only about who would do it. Their acceptance of potential death was both disturbing and admirable. Very well, Jinha said finally. We'll proceed with your plan. But we'll send our best engineers to help with the core extraction. Perhaps we can find a way to improve your chances of survival. The next few minutes were a blur of activity. Dr. Park and most of the human crew transferred to the Eternal Harmony, while Confederation engineers rushed to the horizon to assist with the dangerous procedure of removing the fusion core from its housing. Haren worked closely with Dr. Park, modifying the shield systems of both ships to create the focusing lens that would redirect the solar flare. Your species continues to surprise me, Haren admitted as they worked. This level of self-sacrifice is rare among spacefaring civilizations. Dr. Park's hands moved steadily over the controls despite the tension of the moment. Humans have always been willing to die for causes they believe in. Sometimes it's our greatest strength, sometimes our greatest weakness. How so? We can be stubborn, reckless. We'll throw ourselves against impossible odds rather than accept defeat. Dr. Park paused, looking at the view screen where they could see Morrison and Chun working on the fusion core. But we also inspire each other. One person's courage can ignite something in others. On the horizon, Morrison and Chun, along with 3 Confederation engineers, carefully disconnected the fusion core from its housing. The ship's lights dimmed as emergency power took over. Core extraction complete, Chun reported over the comm. Beginning overload sequence. The flare will erupt in 4 minutes, Haren announced. The Vexenar ships will arrive in 11 minutes. We need to delay the flare by at least 7 minutes, Morrison said, setting power levels accordingly. Jinha watched from the bridge of the Eternal Harmony as the human ship's fusion core began to glow with increasing intensity. The energy readings were off the scale. They're channeling too much power, Rex warned. The core will breach before they can direct the pulse. Morrison, Chun, abort the sequence, Jinha ordered. The risk is too great. Negative, Morrison replied calmly. We've calculated the exact power curve needed. The core will hold just long enough. The tension on the bridge was palpable as everyone watched the energy levels continue to rise. The human ship was now glowing from within, its hull straining to contain the power of the overloading core. Flare eruption in 30 seconds, Haren reported. Energy pulse ready, Chun confirmed. Targeting coordinates locked. Fire, Morrison ordered. A blinding beam of energy shot from the horizon directly into the forming solar flare. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the surface of the star seemed to ripple, the magnetic fields visibly distorting. It's working, Haren exclaimed. The flare is destabilizing. New eruption time estimated at ... 12 minutes. Right when the Vexenar arrive, Jinha said with satisfaction. Well done, but their victory was short-lived. On the view screen, They could see that the horizon was breaking apart, the hull plates buckling under the strain of the energy discharge. "Morrison-chun, evacuate now," Jinha ordered. "We're sending a shuttle." "Negative," Morrison replied, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. "The pulse needs to be maintained for another 30 seconds to fully disrupt the flare. After that, the core will breach." "You won't survive," Jinha said. Morrison smiled grimly. "Sometimes you don't get to walk away from the fight. But you? Make sure you win it anyway." As the horizon continued to break apart, Jinha watched in awe as the two humans worked calmly amidst the destruction, adjusting controls and maintaining the energy pulse with unwavering focus. In that moment, he finally understood what made Deathworlders truly dangerous. It wasn't their strength or their resilience, or even their intelligence. It was their willingness to face death without flinching. The horizon shuddered violently as its hull plates tore away. Inside, Morrison and Chin worked frantically to maintain the energy pulse targeting the solar flare. "Core temperature critical," Chun reported, his voice remarkably steady. "We have 20 seconds before breach." Morrison nodded, his hands flying over the controls. "Keep the beam focused. We only need to hold it a little longer." On the bridge of the Eternal Harmony, Jinha watched with growing concern. "Prepare emergency transporters," he ordered. "As soon as the pulse ends, lock onto the humans and bring them aboard." "Captain," Rex protested, "our transporters aren't calibrated for human physiology. The risk of cellular damage is better than certain death." Jinha cut him off. "Do it." Haren worked alongside Dr. Park, both of them racing to modify the transporter systems. "Your cellular structure is denser than most species we've encountered," Haren explained. "We need to adjust the matter stream converters." "Use this frequency, Doctor," Park suggested, inputting a series of calculations. "It matches the resonance pattern of human DNA." The view screen showed the horizon now barely holding together, its structure glowing white-hot from the strain, the energy beam connecting it to the star remained steady, a testament to the humans' engineering skills and determination. "Pulse complete," Morrison's voice came through the com. "The flare has been successfully delayed." "Stand by for emergency transport," Jinha ordered. "Negative," Morrison replied. "The core breach is destabilizing our molecular structure. Transport would scatter our atoms across half the system." Jinha looked to Haren for confirmation. She checked her readings and nodded grimly. "He's right. The radiation levels are too high for safe transport." "Then get to the escape pod," Jinha urged. "We'll retrieve it." "No time," Chun said simply. "But we've got one more trick up our sleeves." Before Jinha could ask what he meant, the horizon suddenly changed course, its remaining engines firing at full power. The damaged ship was moving away from the Eternal Harmony and directly toward the arrival point of the Vexenar fleet. "What are you doing?" Jinha demanded. "The core is going to breach in 15 seconds, Morrison explained calmly. "Might as well put it to good use." Dr. Park gasped as she realized their plan. "They're going to use the ship as a bomb." "The explosion will create a subspace disruption," Haren added, her voice filled with awe. "Any ship dropping out of faster-than-light travel into that area will be severely damaged." Jinha stared at the view screen, watching as the dying ship positioned itself perfectly at the coordinates where the Vexenar fleet would emerge. "Morrison-chun?" "There must be another way," he said, though he knew there wasn't. "This is our choice," Morrison replied. "Make it count. Make sure the Vexenar don't hurt anyone else." "Core breach in 5 seconds, Chun reported. "It's been an honor serving with you, Captain." "Likewise, old friend," Morrison said. The com went silent. On the view screen, the horizon seemed to pause for a moment, hanging in space like a small, defiant star. Then it exploded in a blinding flash of light and energy that rippled outward in waves of distorted spacetime. "Shields at maximum," Jinha ordered as the shockwave approached the Eternal Harmony asterisk. The Confederation ship rocked violently as the edge of the explosion washed over it. Systems flickered, and for a moment, artificial gravity failed, sending crew members floating from their stations. Then the backup systems engaged and stability returned. "Damage report," Jinha called out. Minor damage to outer hull plating, Rex reported. All systems functional. The Vexenar? Jinha asked. Sensors detect 3 ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. Now, Harin announced, on the view screen. They watched as the Vexenar warships emerged directly into the heart of the subspace disruption. The effect was immediate and devastating. The ships tumbled out of control, their hulls buckling as the distorted space-time tore at their structures. Power systems failed, weapons went offline, and engines died. It worked, Dr. Park whispered, her eyes fixed on the screen. They're completely disabled, Jinha turned to Rex. Target their propulsion and weapon systems. Make sure they can't recover. The Eternal Harmony moved forward, firing precise shots that further crippled the already damaged Vexenar ships. Within minutes, all 3 vessels were drifting helplessly in space. We're receiving surrender signals from all Vexenar ships, Rex reported, unable to keep the surprise from his voice. Jinha nodded. Inform Confederation Command. Request prison transports for the crews. As the bridge crew carried out his orders, Jinha noticed Dr. Park standing silently by the view screen, staring at the empty space where the horizon had been. They knew they wouldn't survive, Jinha said quietly, moving to stand beside her. Yet they never hesitated. That's what humans do, Dr. Park replied, her voice steady despite the tears in her eyes. We face the impossible, and we find a way through or we make one. Your captain and engineer saved not only us, but countless other worlds Vexenar would have targeted. Jinha acknowledged. The Confederation owes them a debt we can never repay. Dr. Park turned to face him. You can repay it by reconsidering humanity's place in the galaxy. We're not just Deathworlders to be feared and quarantined. We're explorers, builders, protectors. Jinha was silent for a moment, considering her words. Everything he had witnessed contradicted the Confederation's official position on humans. Yes, they were dangerous, but not in the way he had been taught. I will speak to the High Council, he promised. Your people have earned that much. The solar flare finally erupted, its massive energy washing harmlessly past the disabled Vexenar ships. The red light bathed the bridge of the Eternal Harmony in a warm glow that reminded Jinha of the blood that had been spilled to save them all. Harin approached with a datapad. Captain, I've been analyzing the information from the Horizon S computers that Dr. Park brought with her. The humans have been tracking Vexenar movements across 7 star systems. They've documented harvesting operations, slave transports, weapons development, all in violation of Confederation law. Evidence the Council cannot ignore, Jinha noted. There's more, Harin continued. The humans have made contact with 3 other species previously unknown to us all early spacefaring, civilizations that would have been easy targets for the Vexenar. The humans provided them with defensive technology and warning systems. They protected them, Jinha said, even though they had no obligation to do so. It seems to be a fundamental aspect of their nature, Harin observed. They see themselves as defenders of those weaker than themselves. Dr. Park had been listening to their conversation. It's not just that, she said. We know what it's like to be alone and afraid in a hostile universe. Earth taught us that lesson every day for millions of years. We fought predators, survived disasters, endured plagues all while wondering if we were alone in the cosmos. She looked out at the stars. When we finally reached space and found others, we promised ourselves we wouldn't let them face that same fear. No one should have to fight alone. Jinha studied the human scientist, seeing her species in a new light. The Confederation had classified humans as dangerous because they had evolved on a world that should have killed them. But that harsh crucible had forged something unexpected beings who understood suffering and sought to prevent it in others. Prepare a full report for Confederation Command, Jinha ordered. Include all data on the Vexenar operations and the humans' actions to counter them. And add my personal recommendation that Earth's quarantine status be immediately reviewed. As the Eternal Harmony moved to secure the disabled Vexenar ships, Jinha couldn't help but wonder what other misconceptions the Confederation held about the Deathworlders from Earth. They had proven themselves to be far more than simple survivors of a harsh planet. They were, perhaps, Exactly what the galaxy needed: beings who had faced death so often that they understood the true value of life. 3 days after the battle, the Eternal Harmony remained in the Proxima Centauri system, waiting for Confederation reinforcements to arrive and take custody of the Vexenar prisoners. Jinha had ordered his crew to gather all possible evidence of the pirates' illegal activities from their disabled ships. In the ship's conference room, Jinha met with his senior officers and Dr. Park, the sole surviving human from the horizon. The table was covered with holographic displays showing data recovered from the Vexenar vessels. "What we found is disturbing," Harin reported, bringing up a star map with several systems highlighted in red. The Vexenar weren't just random pirates. They were conducting systematic harvesting operations across this entire sector, focusing on worlds with pre-spaceflight civilizations. Harvesting for what purpose? Jinha asked, though he suspected the answer. "Biological research," Dr. Park said grimly. They were collecting specimens from different species to study their adaptations to various environments. Rex brought up another display showing laboratory facilities aboard the largest Vexenar ship. "We found evidence of extensive experimentation. They were particularly interested in species with unusual resistance to environmental extremes." "Which explains their interest in humans," Harin added. "Your adaptability would be especially valuable to their research." Dr. Park nodded. "When they attacked our Mars colony, they took dozens of people alive. We found records of their tests in the ship's database." Her voice remained steady, but her hands clenched into fists. "They were trying to isolate the genetic factors that allow humans to survive conditions that would kill other species." Jinha studied the human scientist. Despite everything, she had lost her ship, her captain, her crewmate. She remained focused on the larger threat. It was yet another example of the remarkable resilience of her species. "There's something else," Quan said, bringing up a new set of data. "The Vexenar were working for someone. Their communications refer to a benefactor who provided funding and technology in exchange for their research findings." "Do we know who this benefactor is?" Jinha asked. "Not yet," Quan admitted. "The communications were heavily encrypted. Our analysts are still working on it." Jinha turned to Dr. Park. "Did you encounter any evidence of this benefactor during your pursuit of the Vexenar?" "No," she replied. "But it would explain how they acquired technology beyond their known capabilities. The weapons they used against our colony were more advanced than anything we'd seen before." The meeting was interrupted by an alert from the bridge. "Captain," the communications officer reported, "we're receiving a transmission from Confederation. Command, Priority 1. "Put it through," Jinha ordered. The main screen activated, showing the stern face of High Commander Lauren, the head of Confederation security. "Captain Jinha," she said without preamble, "I've reviewed your preliminary report on the Vexenar incident. Is it true that you have a human aboard your vessel?" Jinha straightened in his chair. "Yes, Commander, Dr. Maina Park, science officer from the Earth vessel Horizon. Her captain and engineer sacrificed themselves to help us defeat the Vexenar fleet." The commander's expression remained cold. "You are aware that direct contact with humans is strictly prohibited under Confederation Quarantine Protocol 7 Alpha?" "I am aware," Jinha replied. "However, Confederation Emergency Directive 3 requires us to respond to all distress calls, regardless of origin. The humans were in genuine distress, and their assistance proved invaluable in stopping a major threat." That will be for the Council to decide," Commander Lauren said. "You are ordered to proceed immediately to Confederation headquarters. The human will be placed in secure containment upon arrival." Dr. Park tensed but remained silent. Jinha, however, was not willing to accept the order without question. "Commander, with respect, Dr. Park is not a prisoner. She and her crew saved my ship and stopped criminals who were violating multiple Confederation laws. She deserves our gratitude, not our suspicion." And the commander's eyes narrowed. "Your personal feelings are irrelevant, Captain. The quarantine of Earth was implemented for the protection of all Confederation species. Humans evolved in conditions that made them uniquely dangerous. Dangerous, yes, Jinha acknowledged, but not in the way we've always assumed. He gestured for Haran to send the data they had compiled. I'm transmitting evidence that humans have been protecting vulnerable species from Vexenar harvesting operations. They've developed defensive technologies, warning systems, and evacuation protocols for civilizations that couldn't protect themselves. That doesn't change the fact, the commander began, but Jinha continued. I've seen firsthand what humans are capable of, he said firmly. Yes, they're physically resilient and adaptable. Yes, they can be fierce fighters when threatened. But they're also capable of extraordinary self-sacrifice and compassion for others. Dr. Park spoke up, her voice calm but intense. Commander, I understand your caution. Humans have a violent history. Our planet shaped us to be survivors at any cost, but that same history taught us the value of cooperation, of protecting those who cannot protect themselves. She stood and faced the screen directly. We don't want to conquer the galaxy. We want to explore it, learn from it, and yes, help protect it when necessary. The captain and engineer of my ship gave their lives not just for me, but for everyone the Vexenar would have harmed in the future. The commander was silent for a moment, studying the human with a calculating gaze. Your words are eloquent, Dr. Park, but the Council will require more than words to reconsider Earth's status. Then I offer evidence, Dr. Park said. She nodded to Haran, who brought up a new display showing the technical specifications of the horizon. Our ship was designed for peaceful exploration. When we encountered the Vexenar threat, we modified it for defense not just of ourselves, but of others. The display shifted to show the 3 alien species the humans had contacted and protected. These civilizations had no knowledge of the wider galaxy. They were easy targets. We could have ignored their plight, focused only on our own survival. Instead, we chose to help them prepare, to give them a fighting chance. Commander Lorne studied the data with a slightly softer expression. This is not what we expected from Deathworlders. Perhaps, Jinha suggested, it's time to reconsider what we think we know about humans. The commander was quiet for a long moment. Proceed to headquarters as ordered, Captain, but ... She hesitated, then continued, Dr. Park will be treated as an honored guest, not a security risk. The Council will want to hear her testimony directly. After the transmission ended, the conference room was silent. Then Rex spoke up, voicing what many were thinking. This could change everything. The quarantine, Earth's isolation, humanity's place in the galaxy. It already has, Jinha said, looking at Dr. Park with newfound respect. The moment humans sent that distress signal, they changed the course of galactic history. Dr. Park smiled slightly. We're good at that, changing the rules when they don't work for us. It's how we survived on Earth. Haran, who had been analyzing more of the Vexenar data, suddenly looked up with alarm. Captain, I've decrypted more of their communications with this benefactor. It appears the Vexenar were just the first wave. There's something much bigger coming. Jinha moved to her station, explained. The benefactor isn't a person, it's an organization called the Evolutionary Directorate. They've been studying species across the galaxy, looking for specific genetic traits. Haran brought up the decoded messages. They're particularly interested in humans because of something they call adaptive potential. What does that mean? Rex asked. Dr. Park read through the data quickly, her scientific mind grasping the implications. They believe humans represent an evolutionary breakthrough. Species that can adapt to almost any environment within a few generations. They want to harness that ability for themselves. Jinha looked at the star map showing the Directorate's known operations. This goes far beyond the Vexenar. If this organization has been operating in secret, harvesting species for their genetic material, then the entire Confederation could be at risk, Dr. Park finished, and Earth might be their primary target. Jinha made his decision. We're changing course. Before we go to headquarters, we're going to Earth. Captain? Rex questioned. That violates quarantine protocols. Sometimes, Jinha said, echoing Morrison's words from days earlier, you have to break the rules to do what's right. He turned to Dr. Park. Your people need to be warned about the threat they face. And the Confederation needs to understand that humans aren't the enemy, they might be our best hope against what's coming. As the Eternal Harmony prepared to make the journey to Earth, Jinha reflected on how completely his understanding of Deathworlders had changed. He had expected to find dangerous primitives. Instead, he had discovered allies with courage and determination unlike anything he had seen before. The galaxy was about to learn what humans were truly capable of, not just as survivors, but as protectors. The journey to Earth took 8 days at maximum speed. During that time, Dr. Park worked closely with the crew of the Eternal Harmony, sharing everything she knew about human civilization and helping them prepare for first contact with their homeworld. Your people won't shoot us down on sight, will they? Rex asked as they approached the Sol system. Dr. Park smiled. We might be Deathworlders, but we're not mindless aggressors. Still, you should expect a cautious reception. Earth has unified its major governments under the Global Defense Alliance, but we've had limited contact with alien species, and most of it hasn't been friendly. Jinha stood at the main viewport, watching as they dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. Send the message we prepared, he ordered. Make sure they understand we come in peace. Quan transmitted the carefully crafted message, which included Dr. Park's personal identification codes and a brief explanation of their mission. Then they waited. Multiple ships approaching, Rex reported after several tense minutes. Small vessels, heavily armed but with limited range. They're forming a defensive perimeter around our position. That's our first response fleet, Dr. Park explained. They're buying time for the main defense forces to mobilize. A communication request came through, and Jinha nodded for Quan to accept it. The view screen showed a stern-faced human male in a military uniform. This is Admiral James Chun of the Earth Defense Force, he said. We've received your transmission and Dr. Park's codes. If she is truly aboard your vessel, we need visual confirmation. Dr. Park stepped forward. Hello, Admiral. It's good to see Earth again. The Admiral's expression softened slightly. Dr. Park, your ship was reported lost 3 months ago. We thought ... double quotes. He paused. Captain Morrison and Engineer Rex? They gave their lives to save both our ships and stop a major threat, Dr. Park replied, her voice steady but tinged with sadness. Their sacrifice is why I'm standing here now. Admiral Chin nodded solemnly. They will be honored. He turned his attention to Jinha. Captain, your presence here violates the quarantine we've been told exists around our system. Why have you come? To warn you of a threat, Jinha replied, and to propose an alliance that could change the future of both our peoples. The Admiral considered this. We will escort you to our orbital station. A diplomatic team will meet you there. As the Eternal Harmony followed the Earth ships toward the third planet, Jinha and his crew stared in wonder at humanity's homeworld. The blue-green sphere was wrapped in swirling white clouds, its surface a patchwork of oceans, forests, deserts, and ice caps. It's beautiful, Harin said. Hard to believe it's classified as a death world. Beauty and danger often go hand in hand, Dr. Park replied. Those lovely blue oceans can produce waves tall as buildings. Those green forests hide predators with teeth and claws evolved over millions of years. Those white clouds can spawn storms that flatten entire cities. Yet you call it home, Jinha observed. It made us who we are, Dr. Park said simply. We wouldn't trade it for anything. The Earth orbital station was a massive structure, clearly built for both scientific research and defense. As the Eternal Harmony docked, Jinha selected a small delegation to accompany him. Harin, Rex, and Quan, they were met by a group of humans in formal attire representatives from Earth's unified government. Dr. Park made the introductions. And soon they were seated in a conference room, with views of Earth rotating slowly below them. Let me be direct, said Eliza Quan, Earth's Secretary of Interstellar Affairs. Why has the Confederation suddenly decided to break its own quarantine? After ignoring our attempts at communication for decades? Jinha appreciated the human's straightforward approach. Because we've discovered that everything we thought we knew about humans was wrong, or at least incomplete. He activated a holographic display showing the data they had gathered about the Evolutionary Directorate and their operations. This organization has been studying species across the galaxy, focusing on genetic traits that allow adaptation to extreme environments. Your species represents their ultimate prize. The Earth representatives listened intently as Jinha explained the threat. When he finished, Admiral Chun spoke up. This confirms our suspicions. The attack on our Mars colony wasn't an isolated incident. We've detected unusual activity at the edges of our system for years. We believed we were alone in facing this threat, Secretary Kwan added. It's why we've been expanding our defense capabilities so rapidly, Dr. Park stepped forward. The Confederation has always feared humans because we evolved on a death world. They thought our strength and resilience made us dangerous. But Captain Jinha and his crew have seen that these same traits make us valuable allies, Jinha nodded. The Evolutionary Directorate is targeting vulnerable species throughout this sector. Humans have already demonstrated their willingness to protect others at great cost to themselves. The Confederation needs that spirit now more than ever. Secretary Kwan exchanged glances with her colleagues. What exactly are you proposing, Captain? A formal alliance, Jinha said. Earth would join the Confederation as a full member, with all the rights and protections that entails. In return, humans would help us develop new strategies against the Directorate. The Confederation Council has not authorized this offer, Rex pointed out quietly. No, Jinha acknowledged. But they will when they understand what's at stake. Sometimes leadership means taking the first step, even when the path is uncertain. The Earth representatives asked for time to discuss the proposal among themselves. While they deliberated, Jinha and his crew were given a tour of the station by Dr. Park. Your people have accomplished so much while isolated, Harin remarked as they observed Earth scientists working on advanced propulsion systems. Necessity drives innovation, Dr. Park explained. When the Vexenar attacked Mars, we realized we weren't alone in the universe and that not everyone out there was friendly. We had to advance quickly or perish. Like you've always done, Jinha observed, adapting to survive. Exactly, Dr. Park agreed. It's the human way. When they returned to the conference room, the Earth representatives had reached a decision. We accept your proposal for an alliance, Secretary Kwan announced, but with conditions. We want full access to Confederation technology and star charts. We want our ships to have freedom of movement throughout Confederation space. And we want a voice in decisions that affect our sector. Jinha had expected nothing less. Those terms are reasonable. I will present them to the Council with my full support. There's one more thing, Admiral Chun added. We want to send a human delegation to Confederation headquarters immediately. If this Evolutionary Directorate is as dangerous as you believe, there's no time to waste. Jinha smiled. The Eternal Harmony would be honored to transport your representatives. As they finalized the details of the agreement, Harin approached Dr. Park. I've been curious about something, she said. When your captain decided to sacrifice himself to save everyone, he didn't hesitate. How do humans face death so calmly? Dr. Park considered the question. We don't really. We fear death as much as any species. But we fear something else more. What's that? Failing those who depend on us, Dr. Park replied, letting evil triumph when we could have stopped it. Living with the knowledge that we chose our own safety. Overdoing what was right. She looked out at Earth, spinning peacefully below. Our planet taught us that survival alone isn't enough. It's what you survive for that matters. 3 days later, the Eternal Harmony departed Earth orbit with a human delegation aboard. As they prepared to jump to faster-than-light speed, Jinha stood on the bridge with Dr. Park and Earth's representatives. The Confederation has never faced a threat like the Evolutionary Directorate before, Jinha admitted. We don't know if we can defeat them. Admiral Chun, who had chosen to lead the Earth delegation personally, smiled grimly. That's where humans excel, Captain. Give us an impossible problem, and we'll find a way to solve it. It's what Deathworlders do. As the stars stretched into lines of light around them, Jinha reflected on how completely his understanding had changed. The galaxy had always feared humans for their strength, their resilience, their adaptability, the traits forged in the crucible of a death world. Now, those same traits would become the galaxy's greatest hope, the distress signal that had started. Their journey had been answered, but the response had become something much greater, an alliance that would reshape the stars themselves.